Subcommittee. Pegishi, I see a lot of good things happening, protecting our Navajo people, our vulnerable population, to my leadership, Window Rock, to the graduating Navajo Nation Police Academy, and all the chapters in our communities. And Johnny, it's good to see that. Ado shamano snadian, Badoshi Eya, Nihidin in the Ajane way put on Hokat, the Nenny Clinigi, did a Hokat, the Nenny Clini, Beshbans, and the Nebana Technic Clinic, Kodosana Natle, Ado Ashin, so did in Kidane, it's art, Kidal, any Sani that Chin, that Twida, that a Squisani, Ada. They in the by eight to Bahani, the Niki Quebini, yes, and non it little less. Could joy fancy case, or Sinils could only hit the ne, she be that this sang its aunt Kedalia, sang its aunt Hashin, so Benzi case. This is Zini Hashin, so the Ohandatle, the Lahandatle, for the Benina, Sabazet, that's Ash for the Shitrashidin. Ado that ahead of all Escodo the Quaggy. Instead to not deal than the Quaggy the quest or actually give you Jihona Eshe Codo. He not then staying hit Zini can to the guinea. Codo, his better husband or less dog Codo Hajo. A yarn hit the nebby Hajo Sinil do Aishi Bajo Badi Ado Codo Hajo at the Doni Hashinela Nikit the Nebel and Dalish. Ben Khandar Listo, Nahabik Edglin Lido, Lin Khandar Lishinlini, Bessendale Mishinlini, Bishi Sto Joba Dames and Bishi Sto, Kodo Hadishi, or Asto da old kid, Nihin Hast Hado Le and Khandar Lishinko, Ado Kodonke Jejon do Leskodo Ha Arte, Ado Shada Ado E Arte, Ado Naho Kos. Ado shamano hosta ya isnida ado shtra ya tashkil le dan and kodon kidat no indo kodon kizad ba huilian do lesne kodon kinan tina kik ehna ne kahan le do les shtra shidin kodo hajon do les kodo hajon hasli yeah.
She has committee members is I just reached the council chamber right now, and so we have a large group of veterans here. Vice Chair Brown, would you be able to help me facilitate with the agenda and moving forward? I'm just getting briefed right now, and then I could provide an update on this committee call. Would we still have the quorum? I'll still be on the line, but I just need a few minutes to get myself situated here on some of the veterans issues that are being addressed at the chambers. Vice Chair Brown, would you be able to help me with the agenda?
Yes. Chairperson,
okay.
I would be being honored to start our meeting here, Quaggy. Yeah. Ado Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee. Ike Quang Kitono Sonigi. Ado Nishidane Hashine La A Didenkinan Shidak and Nakoho Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee members. Ado to our staff, thank you. I am logging on right now, so I'm pulling up the agenda. So it is 2:14, and I know that we do have quorum. So let me see. Staff, if you can help me with the agenda while I'm looking for it here, and read that into the record. Where is it?
Thank you, Honorable Brown. This is Lorene Spencer. I'll read the agenda. Proposed agenda of the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee of Nabakia Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, special meeting through telecommunication Friday, September 24th, 2021, 2 p.m. Presiding Amber Knezbot-Crotty, Chairwoman Nathaniel Brown, Vice Chairperson. 1, call meeting to order, roll call and invocation. Number 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. Number 3, review and adopt agenda. Number 4, review and adopt the journals. There's none. 5, receiving reports. A, report on AUSA federal decline cases from Doreen McPaul, Attorney General, Navajo Department of Justice. B, report from Navajo Police Department and criminal investigation on the status of rape kits. C, report on victim services from FBI victim advocates and support for families. 6, old business none. 7, new business none. 8, closed meeting announcement and adjournment. Mr. Vice Chair, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lorene, for reading that into the record. So, call meeting to order. We did that, recognizing guests and visiting officials. We did review and adopt. Actually, I would need a motion on item number 3, review and adopt the agenda. At this time, committee members, on our Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee, agenda and Kadasi Ginigi.
Vice Chair, I'll motion to accept the agenda. Delegate Stewart.
Yeah, Delegate Stewart, we do have a motion on item number 3. The committee members, is there a second?
Second, Delegate Paul Begay.
Yeah, we do have a second by Delegate Paul Begay. Staff, if you can help me with the roll call vote, please.
Okay. Honorable Amber Knezbot-Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Wilson C. Stewart, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Stewart votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Amber Knezbot-Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote?
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. I'll go again. Honorable Amber Knezbot-Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene.
Oh, so Deja, this is Delegate Crotty, I vote green.
Okay, Honorable Amber Knezbot-Crotty votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting, which is Honorable Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown not voting, Honorable Vince James not voting, and Honorable Eugene So not voting. And that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 not voting, Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Again, 3 voting in favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting. Although we are on item number 4, review and adopt journals, which is none. Although the item number 5, receiving reports. A, report on AUSA federal declined cases from Doreen McPaul, Attorney General, Navajo Nation Department of Justice. Madam Attorney General, are you on the line with us?
Delegate James on the line.
Yeah, Deshananda, Delegate James. Yeah. We are on item number 5, receiving reports at this time on A. Receiving report from Ms. Doreen McPaul, Madam Attorney General of Navajo Nation Department of Justice. Yeah, again, do we have anyone from Navajo DOJ at this time?
Yes, Delegate Brown, my name is Vernon Jackson. I'm here representing the Attorney General. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, will you be giving us a report on the AUSA federal decline cases on
Yes.
behalf of NDOJ?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is yours. Generally, we have 20 minutes, and then we will open the floor up after your presentation to fellow Sexual Assault Prevention Committee members to answer questions after your report. So you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Delegate Brown. My name is Vernon Jackson. I am the acting Chief Prosecutor for the Navajo Nation. I'm originally from Chinle, Arizona. I got 20 minutes here, so I am going to proceed with this presentation with precision and also with swiftness so that we can cover all that needs to be covered. Honorable delegates, be aware that I did send you a copy of the presentation that I'm giving today. I will follow that format from the presentation. And of course, I'll open up for any questions that you may have at the end of this presentation. In order to really understand what it means to talk about the declination process, I think it's really important to understand what the declinations are. So if you would please go to Exhibit A of the documents that I provided to you. Exhibit A is a cradle to grave flow of a declination decision that occurs at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Today, I am only going to be covering the front part of that process, as you can see there in gray. That part of this process deals with the declination letters and how it is that we enter the study of these letters. How it is that we entered the study of these letters. So the focus of this presentation is going to be on the front part of this flow chart. As you can see there, a declination decision is a decision by the United States Attorney's Office not for a particular type of crime. Most of these crimes are heinous crimes. They're serious crimes relating to such things as sexual assault, aggravated battery, homicide. You'll see the list of offenses that have been referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and ultimately they decline to prosecute. So as you can see here, this chart starts with this decision to decline, and we're talking about the state of Arizona, New Mexico, and also Utah. As you can see there, after the decision is made, a letter is issued. And the letter, we've discovered that the letter is typically issued to the FBI or to Navajo Criminal Investigations or to the Office of the Prosecutor. There's no rhyme or reason as to how they issue these letters in terms of who they're distributed to. And you'll begin to see the picture as to how that is problematic when you talk about following through with these declination letters. So here's the process. Since I got 20 minutes here, I'm only going to focus on this front part and talk to you a little bit about that relative to this chart. All the items in red there that you see in Exhibit A are all the problem areas that we're having with the system that is causing us to not reach the end goal, and that is to have a judgment order issued concerning any cases that are filed in the Navajo Nation courts, or if a decision has been made to decline the case at the Navajo Nation's level. So that's Exhibit A. So I wanted to start my presentation by telling you that there is a broad picture that one must look at when you look at this declination process and you talk about declination letters. So what we did is we looked at 32 letters that were received by the U.S. Attorney's Office, again, in Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. And these were for the years 2019, 20, and 21. And having it within that period helps us to stay within the statute of limitations concerning charges that could be filed in the Navajo Nation courts. And statute of limitations basically is a period that we have to initiate charging decisions within the Navajo Nation court. So we looked at 32 letters that were submitted by these various U.S. Attorney's Office, again, for 2019, 20, and 21. So I'm going to break down the analysis now and tell you what we discovered. First of all, there was this collection process. This stage of the process involved collecting all of the letters that were now in the office of the chief prosecutor, and also any other areas where there might be some straggling along. We collected them. There were 32 of them. They were stored on a shared drive in the office of the prosecutor. I'd say there were 29 that were on the shared drive, and there were 3 or 4 that were provided to us indirectly. So that was the first part of the process, is collecting these letters. We begin to review each one of the letters. We broke down the data and we analyzed the data points. We identified the data points. We looked at what the defendant's name was, the state it originated from, what the potential Navajo Nation charge is or will be. We looked at the date of the incident. We looked at the date the declination letter was received, the reason for the declination, the existence of investigative material that were developed by federal investigators. We looked at that data point. We also looked at the data point of the Navajo Police's log number, their police report number, a separate Navajo criminal investigation number also. We looked at the FBI case number. So these are really critical points in really understanding where the incident originated from. If you'll go to Exhibit B real quickly, Exhibit B talks about the types of cases that were declined for prosecution. I do want to make a mention real quickly here at the top of this chart. It says Utah is undetermined. And the reason why Utah is undetermined is because they never submitted declination letters to the office of the prosecutor or anywhere we could get them. And you'll hear about what we did to try to remedy that. So here you see this chart that talks about the types of offenses that were referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office that were declined. Many of these offenses that are on this chart are kind of duplicative because the verbiage is used a little bit differently by, let's say, a different U.S. Attorney's Office. So I'll go through this list real quickly. So there were alleged sexual assaults. This verbiage I'm using before you, honorable delegates, is verbiage that was actually taken from the declination letter. Alleged sexual assault, alleged murder, embezzlement, not specified, assault with a deadly weapon, murder, assault on a federal officer, sexual abuse of a minor under 12, sexual abuse of a child, abusive sexual contact of a minor, assault investigation, felony, child abuse, allegation of aggravated assault, sexual abuse, homicide, assault resulting in serious bodily injury, abusive sexual contact, sexual abuse of a minor, and then there's a classification that they're calling investigation, and then assault and or abuse of a minor child, and last one is investigation of a juvenile. So those were the designations that were given in these letters, and so as you can see on its face, it was really difficult to try to decipher exactly what the offense was, and I'll explain a little bit further how that really also helped, really did not help us in determining where the case originated from. So these data points that I identified, the data points I identified are critical. They're very critical to finding out where these cases came from. So because these data points were all populated, let's say in these letters, for instance, the Navajo Police log number, the primary Navajo criminal investigator, because those data points aren't in the letter, we can't go to the source of where these cases are originating from. So from the very beginning, honorable delegates, you're seeing already a problem in trying to get to the actual case and to figure how we could analyze the case for potential filing in Navajo Nation court. So let me give you examples real quickly. In many of the cases here, the relevant police report involving the alleged crime was never referenced, never referred to the police, to the prosecutor's office. The relevant police report involving the alleged crime that are listed on this chart here were never referred to the prosecutor's office, so we never had copies of these reports. Another example is some declination letters have Navajo criminal investigation case numbers on them, report numbers, but our office had no information or access to these criminal investigative reports. So these deficiencies hindered from the very beginning how we could get to the root of what it is that we needed to do. And you need to capture the picture of this process now in progress, that we're doing this. Obviously, 2-3 weeks down the road, as we get to learn more, we will have more data points filled in as we go along the way. So the justification for the declinations is another area we analyze. If you go to Exhibit C talks about the reasons why the cases were dismissed. Again, only from Arizona and New Mexico, because we never received anything from Utah. Here's a couple examples as to why some of them were dismissed. Do not believe there is reasonable likelihood of conviction in this matter. And then another one is insufficiently confident, a reasonable likelihood of obtaining a conviction. The majority of the declinations were for insufficient evidence or lack of evidence. So that's Exhibit C as we're moving along here. So we looked at the declination, the reasons for the declinations. We acknowledged that the main reason for all these declinations was for insufficient evidence. The terminology that was used by the U.S. attorney's offices who submitted these declination letters weren't really uniform. As you can see on the chart for Exhibit C, it's all over the place as far as the terminology that they use for declining the case. And that leads to more confusion as to the basic reason, because some of these reasons why they were dismissed goes into the veracity of the case in terms of how we would move to charge in the Navajo Nation court. So it's important to know exactly why they declined these cases. So moving forward, going now to the timing of the declinations. Again, in a review of these letters, we discovered that there's a problem with the timing of these declinations because some U.S. attorney offices were sending out these declinations the minute, the day, the hour, so to speak, that they decided they're going to decline it. They send it forward, while other U.S. attorney's office sent them out every quarter, batches of them every quarter, which is a problem because you have the statute of limitations playing. So every day that goes by gets us closer to that day, which is the statute of limitations. So we found that because there's not real concise, uniform procedures for sending these declinations out, that could very well be a problem. The next item is request for information. In reviewing these declination letters, we got to a point to have to call these U.S. attorney offices to get more information because, quite frankly, it was uncalled for. It was nearly inappropriate the way that they would just give the information as they were giving it to us. So we called all three of the U.S. attorney's office, and that created a problem in the sense that the requests were unanswered, non-responsive, no response from them. Others were slow walking the request. For example, one U.S. attorney's office was requested for data for 2019, 20, and 21. That U.S. attorney's office says you need to write a letter to get that information, which is totally inappropriate in my opinion, because the federal law says the Navajo Nation is entitled to that information in addition to investigative material that they produce. And so We contacted the offices. There was slow response to non-response. The next item has to do with the holding of the declination letters. And this is on us. This is on the Navajo Nation. This is a fair assessment of what the problems are regarding these declination letters. And the problem that we have with the Office of the Prosecutor on the Navajo Nation is that there is no tracking system in place. So there were 32 letters that were reviewed. 6 of those cases attached to those letters were charged in Navajo Nation courts, but the rest we're unsure as to why they were not charged. So there was no real tracking system to decide how we would proceed in terms of being intelligent about our decision to pursue these cases or not. In conclusion, the analysis of the 32 declination letters from the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Mexico and Arizona, again, Utah never submitted, reveals significant the analysis of the 32 declination letters reveals significant deficiencies in the initial cradle to grave process involving cases declined by the federal prosecutors. A thorough review of the evidence in some cases, I must say, it is highly possible a Navajo Nation prosecutor will not file the case in the Navajo Nation courts. It is highly possible. However, there are others that could meet the elements of an offense warranting filing of criminal charges. This subcommittee should be aware that other deficiencies in the process exist and are not discussed here. In closing, I'd like you to go to Exhibit A real quickly. If you go to Exhibit A and to highlight other problems within this process, you'll see the red boxes there. And you'll see the other areas of the process where there is a problem. And the more that we don't attack these problems and the more we don't pay attention to the idiosyncrasies of these problem areas, the more these cases are not going to get to where they need to get, and that is to a Navajo Nation prosecutor who can make a decision to charge or not. Thank you very much. That concludes my presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vernon Jackson, the acting chief prosecutor, for your presentation. We do have your presentation package here. I appreciate that for sending that out. Koho, right now, I'm going to open the floor to the committee members. Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee members. Are there any questions for Mr. Jackson at this time? Let me see, where is this?
Okay. I have a comment.
Go ahead, Ash. It's not Ash.
Okay. It's not Ash for spearheading the meeting today, this afternoon, and Mr. Jackson for your presentation on the processes of what needs to happen or what does happen and what should happen with these cases. As you are aware, through council, there's been issues regarding the number of positions for prosecutors and how many more are needed and the funding sources for those prosecutors. Through that and those conversations and those dialogues, through listening to that, what are your, as a prosecutor, what do you see that council should do? And how can we, as a sexual assault committee, support and change some of these laws within Navajo Nation? And also, how can we better our communication with county, state, and federal so that we get these individuals processed in a timely manner? Through your report, it seems like there's a lot of holes in it to where they can just be forgotten. So what can we do, and how can we work with the prosecutor's office to make sure that these cases get through to for all the agencies in the Navajo Nation itself? That's would be my my comment. Would be thank you, but my questions back to you are those questions. That's it for now.
Oh, yeah, Delegate Stewart, with your question on this and the comments and concerns. Although before we go back to Mr. Jackson, let's get any other questions at this time. Okay, back to Mr. Vernon Jackson. If you can please respond to Delegate Stewart's questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Delegate Stewart, that you asked some real compelling questions concerning what the Navajo Nation Council can do. First of all, let me address all of the media attention and all of the new energy that is out there concerning the funding of the prosecutor's office. I want to say, first of all, that in the past, there's been a lot of discussion about more police, and there's been a lot of money that's been provided to the police department for that. It's good. We need more police officers out there. But the more police officers that you hire, the more these cases the more they're funneled into the prosecutor's office. And it's at the prosecutor's office where these behaviors and these tendencies on the part of alleged offenders are addressed by the court. They're held responsible. They face jail time. They face fines. They face questions about treatment. They face questions about rehabilitation. They face questions about what they can do as a family to work together to work through some of these issues so that they can be contributing members to society. This process is important. It is an absolute big part of this whole idea of doing something about sexual assault and other heinous crimes on the Navajo Nation. And so that said, I'm preparing a budget for the Navajo Nation Council pursuant to a request by the Attorney General to ask for funding to, first of all, to get an automated tracking system that will track all of these cases in an automated way the minute that it is received to every point in this flow chart that I'm showing you under Exhibit A, to track it and to hold individuals responsible for each part of the process. So that funding package that I'm putting together involves that. The other part of that funding package involves the hiring of 2 highly trained, highly experienced trial attorneys who can prosecute these cases, these serious cases. There are very creative defense counsels out there who are zealous about protecting their clients, and we need trained, experienced prosecutors. Now, let me just say something here. I'm not saying that the prosecutors who are now employed by the Navajo Nation are not highly trained and experienced. There are some really good prosecutors out there, but they are swamped with cases that are not within this process, but other cases that are dealing with, let's say, other types of crimes that are occurring on the Navajo Nation. What we need is we need a real robust response to, once we get through these discrepancies in terms of charging these individuals and holding them responsible. And that means implementing a tracking system. That means hiring 2 well-trained, well-experienced prosecutors who can do nothing but prosecute these cases nothing but these cases that are declined by the U.S. Attorney's Office. That funding package that I'm putting together for the Attorney General is going to involve that. So what can the Navajo Nation Council do? I believe that's step one, is they can support and fund that effort to bring into focus this process, this federal declination process, from cradle to grave, that we establish a system that is the state of the art, that is sophisticated, that every other Indian tribe can look at and look at in a way that shows that we are able, we are capable, we are competent to deal with these types of issues. That doesn't mean that we're not competent. So let me clarify that, because some folks might get the wrong impression. I'm just saying we need to become more sophisticated in this effort of prosecuting these cases. So that's the first thing, is to support that funding package. Number two is there's a cooperative agreement that is being discussed that was instrumental by Key Ellen Begay that involved meeting with federal officials. That funding package is designed to hire an individual to run this system, a statistician, a data person, a high-level data person who can operate this system and who can track these cases, and to have the caliber of experience to deal with U.S. attorneys' offices in terms of receipt of investigative material. And that's later on down, of course, in the process, but I'm trying my best to answer what it is that you can do. You can support that cooperative agreement that is going to be coming in here to fruition. Thirdly, is to think about the idea of moving the prosecutor's office separate out of the Department of Justice, and have us operate like the public defender's office, where we can move in a way that we can hire prosecutors that, in a more fluid way to fill the positions that are currently vacant. It's hard to fill prosecutor positions on the Navajo Nation because they have to pass the Navajo Nation bar exam. And so once they pass it, though, it is a real blessing. We have 3 individuals who took the bar exam most recently, and I'm hoping and believing that all 3 of them pass the bar exam. We'll be adding 3 more to the prosecutor ranks who can prosecute cases. That's the best I can answer. And as far as cooperation with other outside agencies to assist with these cases, I think that's a better question to ask the Division of Public Safety as to how they could overlay with them in a way to help provide some of the responses. Thank you very much.
Hello. Does that complete your presentation?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jackson. Although again, Sinanta, are there any other questions at this time from the Office of the Prosecutor on this presentation? If not, we are going to move forward to the next presentation. Or actually, I would need a motion and a second on this presentation, Shananta. If I can get a motion on receiving report item A.
Shazan, I'll go ahead and motion, then I have another comment at the end after you get your second.
Okay. We do have a motion by Delegate Stewart. Ado, second, please. Okay, Shananta, if I can get a second on this presentation.
Mrs. Lodge, I think everybody went to sleep on us.
I'm not sure if they're in the same veterans meeting there in Winter Rock. So let me see. Shananta, one call for a second on this presentation. I'm not sure if we have, if we still have quorum. Staff, if you can help me with, if we can do another roll call to see if we have quorum.
Okay, Vice Chair, roll call for SAP. Honorable Madam Chair, Amber Knesba Crotty.
Shadeja, this is Delegate Crotty. I'll vote green. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Amber Knesba Crotty is present. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown is present.
Honorable Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown is present. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr.
Present.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. is present. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Vice Chair, you have 3 members present.
Okay, thank you. I believe that we need 4 of the SAP committee members to make a quorum. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so quorum. That one. I know we are just receiving time. But it's here the report.
Mr. Brown, we can't really hear you.
Just saw us. We can't hear you. Climb to the next mesa. Hey.
My apologies. I see. Yeah. Standing is for reports. We do not need a quorum, so we can just go forward with the meeting. I know that we can. These reports are really important to continue to do. Can you hear me?
I don't know. Yeah, I had to get back on, but I vote green.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think with Delegate James, you make quorum. So we will continue. So we did have a motion on receiving this report. I do need a second for the report from the Office of the Prosecutor. If I can get a second, colleagues.
A second, Delegate James.
Okay, we do have a second. Although staff, if you can help me with the roll call vote. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Amber Knesba Crotty, how do you vote?
I'm here, Shadeja. Did you need me to vote?
Yes.
I vote green, Shadeja. Thank you. Thank you, committee members.
Okay, Honorable Amber Knusba Crowdy votes green. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene Sell, how do you vote? Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 not voting, which is including Honorable Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown not voting, Honorable Paul Begay not voting, and Honorable Eugene So not voting, Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you. 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting. Yeah, and actually, I think Delegate Stewart, he did have another question. The floor is yours with your question.
Okay, Shatash, it wasn't a question, it's a comment, Shatash, to us as SAP committee members. Again, I know that when we ask for reports, we say that they're reports, but it takes time for the staff and the directors, just like Mr. Jackson, to put this together and to express from their department, their division, their thoughts, their wants, their needs. And I think we owe it to them as committee members to give them our undivided attention. I mean, just like what Mr. Jackson said earlier, the social media blitz that went on. And yet, we have committee members that aren't giving their full divided attention to this meeting. Oh, Hashin, that's the comment I want to make.
Yeah, thank you, Shasna Ash, for your comment and concern. We full-heartedly agree with you and to Office of the Prosecutor, the work that you're doing. It does take time to collect the data and follow the data. And of course, this is really important information. And again, this all is about our Navajo people. But as sexual assault prevention subcommittee members, we're gonna continue to follow this, and it takes leadership, listening. So Ani Dineshananta for your very important comments. And again, there's 24 delegates and multiple meetings, but we're trying our best. Thank you for your comments. And I am please, we'll jot those down and make sure that our colleagues continue to be aware. We are on item number B, Nation Police Department and criminal investigation on the status of rape kits. So another very important conversation we need to have, Shananta. Do we have anyone from the Navajo Nation Police Department?
Yeah, Shananta. This is Michael Henderson, Director of Criminal Investigations. Ashwadita.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Right now, you have 20 minutes if you need that whole time, but to give us your report to the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee. You have the floor, sir.
Agoshila Shahashnand, the large Santahiro case and Tagio Ade in Anino Senigi Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee, and I saw Tanigi Nostoy, though she had Kodon Hatno Anigi. Ado Ade, Carson, no Senigi, that's not again, Hido. ya tengi de shnido le shedi kodo tachi ni en shnido ma de skizne basishin tode chi ni da shi che ado ya an re ya taya tin ka da hajna beta do adeshta do koje da al has under criminal investigations the aqua nabikaya na hastro bkhagi aja ahal bago hadat on al khaja aja between slodishna ado idi kodo bahanagi do bahashna do legi jo ya isnta iteste indata anda tonj atahon legi di quad nabikaya na hastro bi na khalchina indata astro no second linigi hoyani linigi only has tweedo sani das legion to be has ani baby guest here it has ani be ba huilia a kodod never be has ani linigi do in the tanway ada hu still be has ani dan linigi ado in the tan Washington de be has ani dan linigi jo kodo be neil nasho even nach hashnet dole kodi nach ahwin ido legi dahitla sexual assault kits jo hada ya belkanik achi yoje edi benach ahwin ido legi jo in le law be ja han ko adla ilin tel ni hada na stones noda ba ja hat ade selai gado ade ikena deskit ni hot ho jo ko di ko jin al khagi bit holni na il khagi ne jo holni ho jo ado bike ne tab ke na idil kida bike na ni tra at ishi be na cha win do le higi di at least hot be ba ta ho agi ba na il kha na ge vel ido haljish vel ida ade vel indo ze ne khadan lengi jo ade hota mashallah ade ya di tsina ido hat ishi bashi ade ya na yilla that isitino aro and that apep hat aushin yad it's ado by awin ido legi na ito lagi jo in da yilla ade adi kwa sexual assault kit nigi ita yimi ade tol I hajo ade in the ya ni kodo bike na ideal kit kobedilia kodo abdil kit aro in the adi sexual assault kit nigi ahwin ido benach ahwin ido legi ade dahitla to aro in the benach ahwin ido legi mesh kato legi the way ana sati laboratories not accommodation ado ade ya dape ndel khatit edo khatib ado ya benach ahwin ido legi jode mesh ido ndel kha edi at least beto that hagi ado jodi benach ahwin ido benach ahuzan do legi jo hota ya ajin nadel kha ko ade ya benach ahwin ido legi ba halon jo ni jo hona dal ido kodo ya edi kwa na skagi nach na ide kido bil na milo in le ya ana hui ahi bjena dal ado agadi ahi dan lo bjena dal edi koje yisi large be bahal negi ya Washington de be agadi ahi dan lenigi US Attorney's Office ko bjena dal neti ad anal suspicion dan deko nach ahwin ido legi da apel ado benach indahaz negi o ini dan lenigi إذا begin the history begin the has نلو بجهنا ده نادي لخا نادي نل قوت أياد دان تهيد أقودي sexual assault kits ننجي جو يا قدود أوبدنا شيء ينيل كاغو نغي نا كده ميلياج دوما أنصف سات هاي خهانا دوشتي the Hanishi Trident is nothing about this thing about the Joko that AD Kodod, the Naja Wind, the sexual assault kits, the Nigi. Koya, the Hitler, Ado, the Hanishi has Tandino Bash, La Codigo inlay laboratories, the Ashkagi. نخدي نيش إيدو نخا أدا إيلا نخان تأسكا أكودي بناجي هوت أهجي جود يهان هالو هوت إن يناجي ندأسكا جودي بناجي أهجي جو آجي إستو دي آدي كود laboratories has أندي نخان تأسكا هجي جو إستو ببهز آني دهولو دي كوجه قد هو إستو دي laboratories, FBI laboratories data. So baby has ani the halon bikaho the hawani. Baby has ani it large is so hogi jo the hat all the nache belchin don't nahigi the nache ahwint ido lehigi belchin don't nahigi bahazango. What out nature what that she's down had that nil is what large yab has ani tezo a call the nature khishi bik hat ato lehigi at inigi jo yam asto the it's ispetor is han don't lehigi da yoke at inigi bahazango jo adi sto edi is betrogen with Ado the Hitler to the sexual assault kits and then you beschreiben dort nicht so beschreiben dort nicht eben ja hat Basen a call nicht ja das at any the Basen go ja I don't know ja das in jo hat be has ani na hat lost I don't that the kid on our nasal, he stop a bit has any that not so a wind eager about the not either. A bitch is the stop at Jibahozengo. What else so they are they a wind eager for the shigo. Bahozengo, cotton latte, ratit a he quite yosh carter quite easy go. A wind either less no. In in the dash hot agina in laboratories they hot be bahzen go a ko state hodash ido ko kodo abza ka ya handel katolis so no so hot be has ani the holno a kodi hodat agi pahata tango ne sexual assault kits in the heat lagi kodona il kago at inigi the bahzen go pero tago so in late I would not is the store between the bahzen go jo that agi yard that kid in denel yard jashi laboratories go between hodel yard or other non-national college ado o other national go be ita so the is with hogi ya le nach go that le ayat $8 nach do bikje ad $8 $6 jon bahzen $. The national ka ba $10 jo ebni nashin khudat eko eko hot eko ka si lo do additional ani nashinigi I don't that the so the khalid out the sexual assault kits but not wind in the lit out behozzen go in dante hat ich bin nach bahzon dante jo hat out na dikit jo ya the chain of custody the din way how ada wind ide ade be has ani inadat how wind ido le yidi da kodo the nebna has to bakado be has ani hollo na way gold to go bishin taz tigi I don't agree hata hui slode begolte stop be has ani da hot au be da hallo I don't agree Washington de I the wind on has ande ade stop da hot au be has ani da hallo di big ho ya di kwa be up na che hosen do le ginal tos ben tani te akodi ya anle azel in de adelt the ya benacha wind ido le gidi akibiti liagi bahna stonzigi bishinte taligi jo ade bahna haskagi jo tabi ade azel in lenigi ade biji kai benacha be hosen di kwa yosh kash kwa izes kwa ol kisko di bahna hala adb no kwa iji kai آدون خیت شدی نخیت آگی آدون هیچ بکارنا نیلی که ایش کاشتو که ایزشکو که او آشکو که او کیشکو نخیت دی نون هیچ بکارنا نیلی آدون لی دی بیده هاز کازگی بینا دهی نیل refrigerators آده بینا نت نت دی که او کیشو که ایش کاشکو که او آشکو دی که بیهید Ado nana le laboratory go nana ihodi kwa yosh kaslo kwa ol kisko ko nana ade kwa ol kisko kwa yosh kasko ade banana ahano ado ade da nana tsko dash kako ade na nana aho kwa endi je ka nana ito yosh kasgi do ol kisgi ka na del ito in le an le خوز کالگون ابی نانیت آربی نانت نانت اینجا بکانا دیل ایدو اندتا یاش کاشگی دو ال کشگی دا بکاو خواه بینات بکاو آرو دا هد آخول جشو لی آخوین ایگون اخا دیل جش اکو هد آو ایاد بکی نال کادو بکی اندید ایکو Abahazanigo nalt abahazanigo tante hota ya nalt sustain nel arodi ya nana shahna hast di akoda bediliagi beshinta desteligi do band astonzigi jo ya the victim witness services bedi no asto an sogashi ya sato bitna hi nel Joy ani kodo dena benahas so bekiya toy ani ben hije na hoti hodat hagi victim services gi in a way FBI in this has ande don a Washington der dit has ande jo hot ya victim services be da hollo adi dal de nishigi quad never nahas so bekai a ko hot ade na il kragina sos beshahid jo ade ko victim services ya bitche yijin bayin edi ko endaja but ba ta ho agi ag kan dal woto ado haljish ado aishin dal nishan le ado huint igun ado ben khaji don woche أنا خود آج خود يستيل مش خدا بديلي آجي خود ياد آج دو خود این نیش خود تو بکیج خدا لیاگو خدا میشه خشنه آدو اند تادی که ایگسی بناچه بینشل نهود ایگی خدا نالکاز اندو دو نبس لاز انجدو دا نانته ایدی بین هین دستی که جدانی دا خویچن هلون ای با دیت دی که نیسلان لیدو لیگی بنانی دو نش ناگو دو نیسل خو هیکا نجه دو لیل جهد ایاد قلناجه بین هین دستی آدون دا دی victim services بدشنگی که دو جهگی استوی دو ثانی ایدی که خدا بدل كنت هالجيشو يشكن ليدو ليشلي يسيشتهال نتو ليشيكي يسيشتدا نيغو قا أهوينت إيغو نأيسنتا خدو بن خدهاز إيغو أهوت أو بجن بيت نلدو ليشيكي جو إي بين هيجي نهوت إي أرون دي دادي قا بناتش أهوينت إيدو ليشكو أنتا أشكابا هاز آدو ليشيكي laboratories فإين غي خطا هو الصدي جو آدي دا يليغو هوت أو دي نغو جو هوت أو دي نيكا أنداجا أنا غي FBI laboratory جو آجيكو آشو تو باهي ليغو تو يال باهي ليغو آدنخا هوت أو نخانتا أشكاها كودي ko kwaagi ko has anigi to ben hije nda has igoda aro inde tadi minant aya hatri ni di kodosh laje present the ilagi delegated chief prosecutor Vernon Jackson jo nikwa di kwan بيقول تخطو ليشيكي بيشي تزوتو ليشيكي بناتش ايدا هزندو ليشيكي data بدي ننجي statistics بدي ننجي جو اي انخنن نينا هنا نتهجي جو اي يام دي بندو نشيكي اجو هت اين دال نشتو ليشيكي دا ايدي بنا نشديش يكين دا خدو ليشيكي جو اين اشتو نخا بانتن كدو نشينا نشخز اندو أكوهد ألتو بيني جي نهاد إيشو أجل دار هارون دا دادي كيدا إلتو sexual assault nurse examiners إشلينيجي سين جو إلتو تابتو هي أكون زيل إنهاز أنغو ديد نبكيه نهاستو بكخاغو زيل إنهاز أنغو ديد بشن ديد تاليجي دو بحنا أستوزيجي أي دنوش إلتو يتفادو بأهوينت إنو نيديو اللهو يهسندو يا إيش كاتو بيبت السنيدو ليشيكي جو هدا تهيي سدا باهتن كويس تو بتني تلينخو كونش تسوشين هدا أو نهشين هوس نتو ليشيكو شهر لا نايدوس كيدو شين أدي أكو تو كدو بهونه تزني دا بهونه أني دا شين كدو يسنا هديشنا شهر لا هوش نمداي
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Henderson. Craigie Gisnason Lento Arjunkin on the Shadak Enigi. Yeah, not a Craigie Shay Yash and Beshpans on SAP committee members. The floor is open for questions at this time. That I cannot ask it.
Vice Chair Brown, this is Delegate Crotty with a question.
Madam Chair Crotty, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. We're still here at the Veterans event, so I appreciate you helping. Thank you, Director Henderson, for your report. We did receive Delegate Paul Begay is on the line, and there was concern from local SANE examiners on the process on how rape kits are being collected by police department, how they're being stored, and then what is the process where we can look to see if they're being processed either in Quantico, since that's not part of the state system. Are there any recommendations on how we can be transparent with that process, or would you need additional resources to have someone track those rape kits that are administered on the Navajo Nation? Thank you.
There's no password on those. On mine, at least the administrator one, there's no password.
There's someone speaking. If you could mute your line, please.
Yeah, that one has no password either, so you just click on them.
If you're talking about a password.
We do hear background music. Staff, if you can help me mute the background noise. Yeah. Although, before we go back to Mr. Henderson, Shanant, are there any other questions or comments on this report at this time? Mr. Henderson, Craig Nade Kidigi, question Craig Hansi Dole. Yeah. Mr. Henderson, I'm not sure if you're still on mute, but we cannot hear you. You can respond to Delegate Crotty's questions.
Oh, yeah, that's a good.
Oak Ahadita.
Go Sheila, Shahash, and I. So I did. I not snaggy, and I not shinigi subcommittees. The quite an idea, Kirigi. 8 ani, the quite a hajot, crime analyst in Linigi. Hajot, Aki, Zoto, Joey K. Kate na Radu, Kate na Dish Kido Pet. The Queen, the Queen of Dakala, laboratories go with that. So, what Aggie, a Joey Kate na Rado, they get your AI nibit in it. Ado Judabahazan ended, Abahazan Kodo, not so Spain Dante. The Nail Kaja and he case file be here. Not so Spain as nil. The Benacha Ahwint either lately sexual assault kick Kodon did Ado Koja. The Ado, a con liado, Adas Ado, Erotago a con liande Adin, Nahanat Ado class, Anjohat a Nal Tospain as Nildi, the way Salau Bishata Huistogo, a co Ade. Put out a yanal toast by Nas Nildonal toast of a car. A Codi crime analyst and Lenigijo Ebitini, he Kate na Rago, Dean Lace Labish at the Huistogo, Ado, a Bitcoin Kate na Raw case files, equal anal toast by Nas, Anigi Days Eagle. Ade Bikao, Hayizoto, he Zohi in a Rago, the Nebiki and Hasto, that Ebaka. The love had a whistle, Ashko. He Kate na Rago, Jod out a Yabanacha, Jod Adonakin, Lenny a husband dolly. The Quee a Yam in the laboratories, the Nas and the Lord, the Quee added Nahaj, Jado, the Quee Adota, the Quee a Ya Conada Disna. Jod Haggy, a Joey Kate na Diskido. Hot Ashi a Ya, Jo Ebitanitle, the Schneer with the crime analyst and Lenny. A core a hot out a Yasabani, Neloshi. Don't lay a shitladon is nana, Figot out even Yanahuita. Although a tweet neat, Lenigi not Annie neat, Lenigi, because it never salah has Anigi don't die cause Anja. What our DNA lot needs, indeed our DNA lot lay hot out a not nishadit out a needs and dob and yendi, the new with Akodan, but I the wheelne. Ado do laboratories that Hagito. Dan Hida con the Neven Hasta of Kagi. San Hanit Ago Aja Dao Yinda Nisha Dag a coed on Lao Nanat Lord Neat Edo do Inan Lao Law a con a yard D Benacha Wind Edo de Higi de let all this. Joe Quas of Dabas Tikoban Sea Kisco. So the at least the Torgi to a you see. This car del uncle. I quite never last of a cry, how long ago like a though a yarn the hot out of on kiss on the joke a listen does you. Could all nanny Glenigi, Misha Outla, listen Tani Nella. Just like a yah that Aggie the Billachin that Aggie do between the Torgi that Aggie the aid, though she found I thought though a yarn lao. Haj da shit not all Nisa Judan. Ado Sao a Yanana Shanada no a Jedi in the that the chon idolis in the business deal that the Shikijin not oti. Quite she is the toe in the Dashilachin than Han Nija Wishla, but you that Aggie the one see case of the Nacha. I thought that I could not Andy and Jordish need in Nanaga, Shladon is nana, I go that a job at the Jot out of one sea case called Hasilo. A call to Goshita and Nana seat of the Goshia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Henderson. Peggy, Delegate Crotty, did you have any other follow-up questions at this time?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Shiaz. May I ask, because I appreciate Director Henderson's report in Navajo and the answer in Navajo, but if I could get just a high-level translation for myself and others who are on the call, that would be perfect. We do have Dr. Ornelas who's on the call, and she's our visitor here, but helping our children. So, Shiaz, can you help facilitate that high-level translation, or staff, or Director Henderson himself? I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Kwegi, Allah da kudada ange ya akujugo lakanik echenkit banahadne ya nijana godnik echebe ba ngesointne na nishadak inegi do ajebi andenegi. Mr. Henderson, Kwegi shi nandinit atole.
Yes, Your Honor, and I do appreciate the opportunity, and I will go over what I was talking about in Navajo, and I appreciate that Dr. Ornelas is on the listening line. So Dr. Ornelas and I had worked several cases in this area in the past several years. So what I was talking about, council delegates, chair and vice chair, and the rest of the subcommittee on the topic of sexual assault prevention. Most of the inventories that is coming from the Navajo Nation with criminal investigations is we have about 344 sexual assault kits that were logged into our district evidence rooms since 2015. We have a report of about 65 sexual assault kits that were submitted to the crime lab since 2015. And one of the things that I was talking about in Navajo in this regard is that 65 out of that 344 sexual assault kits were processed through the laboratory. And one of the things that complicates things when it comes to laboratory services is that we send some to the state laboratories and we send some to the FBI laboratories. And one of the criteria that guides what is sent to the laboratories is that the policies that are in place from the crime labs, from the state and from the FBI. One of the main policy that that we run into is that the laboratories, whether it be the FBI or the state, does not allow for all our evidence kits, all our sexual assault kits to be submitted to the laboratory. And they only accept those sexual assault kits that have perpetrators identified. And then in addition to that, they require that samples from the perpetrator also included with the sexual assault kit for comparison at the laboratory. And that's one of their main policy why not only a fraction of the sexual assault kits are submitted to the laboratory. And the other thing that kind of gauges the submission of these sexual assault kits to the laboratory is that if there is a court date that is set by the courts, whether it's the tribal courts, whether it's the state court, or whether it's federal courts, if there is a date involved in the case, and if the sexual assault kit needs to be processed before that court date, the laboratory will accept those and process those before the court dates. So these are just some of the criteria that are a part of us submitting our sexual assault kits to the laboratory. And one of the other things that I was talking about in Navajo was also that what guides us, what mandates us in keeping track of these sexual assault kits is the chain of custody that calls for us from the courts, from the statutes that we work with, either with the tribe or with the state or with the federal government. And in keeping this chain of custody and keeping track of these sexual assault kits from the time that samples are collected from the victim at the hospital to the either police officer or the investigator, to the refrigerator, from the refrigerator to the laboratory, from the laboratory back to the refrigerator when it's done, and from the refrigerator to the courtroom during trial, and from the courtroom back to the refrigerator after trial, and so on and so forth. So these documents are kept religiously because of those reasons, and they are tracked from the get-go to the end of the sentencing. And if it's still pending sentencing, then or if it still needs to be contested after the sentencing in the appellate courts and those kinds of stuff, then we hang on to it until all these processes are completed. So that's part of the chain of custody that kind of tracks all these sexual assault kits. And then some of the information that I passed on to is the victim's legal rights regarding these investigations, specifically for the sexual assault cases that we encounter here on the Navajo Nation from the Office of Criminal Investigations. We do have brochures that we pass out to the victims that kind of explain some of these victims' legal rights. And this is based on the Crime Control Act of 1990. And whether the victims will testify as a witness in court or not, we give them these brochures and provide them, especially when it comes to the prosecution part of it. And the victim witness services from the FBI and also from the U.S. Attorney's Office are very instrumental in this area. However, we do have no victim witness services from the tribe assigned to criminal investigation or the Navajo police, and this is problematic for us. And but we do have when we do have to reach out to the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office for their victim witness services for our people. And that's part of the problem that we have is we don't have victim witness services to provide with our Navajo police or the criminal investigation departments. And then, as I mentioned, one of the problematic areas that we have is like the crime laboratory services. With the state, we had the state was pretty helpful in the early times back in the 90s. However, they were providing our laboratory services free of charge, but then since then they began to charge us services, and we have to pay out of our budget to process some of these sexual assault kits to the state laboratories. So majority of the time we process our sexual assault kits with the FBI laboratory, and where we don't get charged for the services that they provide from their laboratory services. one of the things that's also problematic for us is, of course, data collection, and out of that data collection to come up with statistics to present to us and to so that we can understand the problem a lot better and respond to these problems after it's analyzed and after all the theories have been tested, and just to help us in the process of preventing sexual assaults. And of course, the biggest issue, of course, has always been manpower, more police officers, more criminal investigators, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, we do need sexual assault nurse examiners sane at every hospital on the Navajo Nation, and we have a problem with those as well. And I'm pretty sure that Dr. Ornelas appreciates my comment that we do need sexual assault nurse examiners at every hospital, which we are lacking at this point. And but in closing, I just want to say that a lot of these problems that I'm talking about with the manpower, victim services, crime laboratories, crime analysts, the sane nurses, and so on and so forth, we are addressing, to develop it and to put these things in place within the next 5 to 10 years. And we have been diligently working at how we're going to do this and laying down the foundation to make it happen within the next 5 to 10 years. So with that, Your Honor, I will close, and unless if there's any further questions, thank you, and I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. Anderson. A wealth of information. There are questions and concerns also from other victim services to that box as well. But let me go back to Madam Chair Crotty. Madam, do you have any other comments or questions at this time, or your questions answered? Yeah. Madam Chair, I know that she's busy with the veterans meeting as well, so it sounds like they're having a really good discussion there at the council chambers. And when to the rest of the committee members, criminal investigators, the non-nishite inigi. Actually, Mr. Henderson, okay. Was there a question or comment from one of the members at this time? Okay, well, again, Mr. Henderson.
Also, I have a comment.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Nash.
Or should Mr. Henderson? Vice Chair, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. The floor is yours, Senator Delegate Stewart.
Okay. Mr. Henderson, Captain Henderson, for your report. Both the Nick Echido, Pelagani Echibe, Ben his Queen's Nagi, though non Shinigi, both conical auto the Kodat Egi victims on Linigi processes on Linigita. That Egita, the Junagoni hit Queen that though, Abelagana Echigo, the Puppet Queen down, Henson, though Kudogi, FOA, the needs and wants again. No, not so he's not winning that so from the public safety job without a Mr. Jackson so without a hard see so he's in the initial no do he's can't nature ho a halit out a that the needs bond so case get out a public safety that get a on opposite that list his genie the hello don't article na ba del kido e shin jondo le his genie eben na go addition shaja Captain Henderson ko korogi hence the report and what are the needs are from what you see and what you have experienced with your years of service as a police officer and a captain with the public safety of these are areas that I want to get more information on. I know you do come to the chapter every now and then for defiance. To get more information on that. So in this case, I just wanted to say that much. Vice Chair. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Crisis na Peggy behind do already none the shidel enigi. Ado to any other delegates at this time. If not, I want to make a comment also. I know that we are pretty busy. So Mr. Henderson, if you can also take note of the Tuba City Victim Witness Services, Miss L'Oreal Shepherd, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right, Laurelle, with the Tuba City Victim Witnesses Services, would like to have a meeting with you. I did invite her to our meeting, and I think at our next meeting agenda next month, we want to put that Victim Witness Services on our agenda also. They do have some really important information that they would like to share with the CI and Navajo Nation Police. I know in Western Agency, for myself who represents Western Agency, we want to get all the services to not just Western Agency, but everywhere. Currently, we need to do better, and then this is why this committee exists, the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee with 6 delegates, that we are here to facilitate and also help in making these really important connections. At the end of the day, it's all about our people. It's all about our people who go missing, the domestic violence, rape, molestation, these traumas that our people go through. So we're here as lawmakers to help our people. And that's why when we're elected, so it's an honor and a privilege to sit in this seat and to represent the great Navajo Nation and our wonderful people. And it is who we represent them. They are our bosses. We follow their directions and we hear them. And this is why this committee exists, is to help and to start healing our people. So so we continue to do our work. I know that this morning we did have the missing murdered Indigenous relatives meeting at 10 o'clock this morning as well, and a lot of volunteers. Mind you, these are volunteers doing the work on victim services. So we want to be the committee that can help make these connections on where, and we want to hear from the victim services and the different departments where, and our people who need these services, very important services. We're here to help them. So and It's really that we want to help in this process. And please, to the CIs, the police department, we're here for you and see how we can work together. So again, that's a little reminder of who we are as council delegates who sit on the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee. And ultimately, these go back to the Nabik and then, of course, finally, the Navajo Nation Council. So it's a process that we have to go through. It's a lengthy process, but so Ado Kwegi, Mr. Henderson, Nade Kidigi, or the comment, please respond to Delegate Stewart. And then also, if you, I can forward you Ms. Shepard's contact information, and if you can make contact with the City Victim Services as well, and accommodate how we and we'll continue to follow up. So, Kwegi, Mr. Henderson, Kweshi, not Kwengich Ahadita, yeah.
Hello, though Hido had his needle, they show. But out the case, so that out in Anish, not or that. So quiet, the lush like hit an end lean. So ask about Williado, ask for a hitting lead on, but your Bible to one case. So what a minute you see. He this Audubon case on his JB Salao, you had even not Salao, he did not a eat out a yard. They need niche. A call, actually, in the way, sport defiance, she, not Liho, she idea, a question the Donny, and Hanadish stuff. It'll that Abatragi, though he did Ashado. I hit now these Lashing Sajo had other Bahas. A call she had out a yard. Nahada Trino Sido, Hans Sogoshin a yard. So it out in a nation hata so Sido. That Avenil and get off of the Neil Mishko there, so that hand three case go there for additional Annie Nothing. I don't did that she Annie to be city Joshi, victim services, she be Conshi, John other Kona dish, other Bibiliki dish as the Laurel Shepherd. Is she other job? Joshi thought she's now didn't know that so. Ado a grade anaso sanda otliso adan kodon ne now didn't so hako nashido nido shin so josto ba hin sindoli a course yeah jojo joshi is that did na short on the way prosecutors but Mr. Jackson ba office though in the Attorney General ba office a kodat hagoshin joshi is indeed na sto go jo hata you see Nans don't still go Nasi was college without a bond case. Of course, yeah.
The Henderson, Aja, Ben Jonon, get Nasons, Neto, Ani Nanishan does. I commend you for the work that you do. I know it's not easy. You are faced with tremendous amount of responsibility in keeping our nation, especially our people, safe. When it comes to abuse and all the forms to our children, our women, our elders, I don't know, but Eshin Kodo from the 24th Navajo Nation Council, and Onke She Aslatit Hotasan, so Anil Honita. She Beskedes Nitole, so a car yet the Ninit Ani could edole. Ado Craigish, as Konade Kikit. Ado, if there's no other questions from the committee members, staff, if you can please help me with the roll call vote, please.
This is Delegate James.
Okay, before we do the roll call vote, Denanda. Delegate James, the floor is yours, sir.
They always stay at what they need late, so I'll just make it short. So, in regards to meeting with the other departments, prosecutor, DOJ, streamline the process. Has that been done in the past, or is there any upcoming plans to sit down and discuss what we are talking about, of how we can make those improvements? That'd be my question, if you have.
Sir Hendry question. It's Craigie. Delegate James Craigie. Nowadays, Kito Miachadzigi. Yeah.
Yeah, Shannon Dino Shenigi, though Delegate James. Yeah, though meeting when I didn't kid Hans and Naljashi meeting in the Italy, though the seat got there, though Abahan dates on the Kuigoshi it's not all day, it's not your called Kihuna, took a delegate in Ilya Vernon Jackson, chief prosecutor. Called DG that I was state on his dado DG that I thought yeah was your Icado net on Nido of Ginati evening. I would that has Tana Joy Adeb Sunday little whole Jesus law. Upon the dig a day ya Sanadi place she agent, but you know hold just short out. I don't the Attorney General that now bekan the whole Agi that need me though actually had it done the wheat out there so though in the on the way I could on he the never can has to be though what the has anja Johut out in the shigi I do that on the way district attorney's office I did so AD Kochata who's in Sago Hata who's so they Aja Agadit Aidan Lenigi larger than has Tanigi. I don't understand the way Washington they Agadit I has Anigi US Attorney's Office. Either other date little had it little in the Hasdigo bandit in band the seat either bandit on that and the Conhol Jishiko. A call hotel ani a call Shahan identity Ashi Nashol Jishko a hotel bandit on a whole just little Hinekato another wheel without a whole just a call Shahan identity.
Yeah.
This is Delegate James. Follow up.
Craig and Delegate James. Go ahead.
Thank you for the response. Although out of those meetings in the past, what was accomplished, or what was your guys' goal? Did you guys identify any short-term goals or long-term goals that can be transferred over with the new delegation or shared with the new delegation? I'm just curious on how important this particular item is for you guys, and where is it that we can make that improvement? What kind of goals were set in place at the time of your meetings? What was the results of the meetings? Was there any, if there was some goals that were set, was there any hiccups to get to that point to accomplish that goal, the short, long term that you guys created from the last meeting, if there was any? Without now, one more thing. I don't know if there was notes that were taken.
here, although Craigie Mr. Henderson, Craigie Shane not get a hard it.
Oh, hado additional I large Untitled case and Tagido Adianos for Dyson Nagi. Oh, I didn't kill you though. To the you see, but he make Kagi bandit in the industry, the declinations are not behind the need. I should say, that Hagi basically not a will. Ado a yard in the Hastigo. A bandit in the Ado Akodo. The beanie kid, the way U.S. Attorney's Office, you see, the declination that Hagi. Nietzsche hodash it acha ado benach $1,000 so dabdi no hodat agid ani behinda huilne to bin deniki aslanni aslannet lebik edad honat igida akot andi eyad ben hiche na hot iho ado and the greenasko benach $1,000 ligi the quiet Kodot the Nen Leniki Navajos Ray Nanat Ochko Golden has Ango the Hotel on Pad Niquasine Kid Hat Inigid Nabiki of a Kadi Ajigo Hotel Nehigi or Tvigo or Stoha Lodger it has Ani in Kigo. The nature about not easily. Odo the nature gold to go dot lossigi, not sauce and then tehigi jo that hegi be in the hasty. Hit all a yard, adonant I, hit all a yard, ado a yard, the nature, benina, and the hot e kodo. Hodat Hagi and Yenda Credo Lilla. So Hodat Hagi Sabandit. Nido Chon either the has Ani begin the next divigi. Ajo has done a ben Kahot Ito Lilligi. I see Anantla. The Hodat Hagi Bandit. Ado and the Ade caused to her hot so data Hodat Hagi. Nal sauce nature. With not easily, the late ego a ya could jo a yard has done a go. Adonant lie a yard. Quite neat in there. The Nabikaya Yiki had any give by paper hunt either little. Adod on the way Washington because Ani Adi King Tioda. A late a quite. Jo has done a go paper hunt either little paper hunt either little. Jo that Aggie has Ani Anant Clow. Could the Nabiki have a card up has Anigi. It's on this divigi. A baby Nebiba Yanigi Jo that Aggie has your Ado a yan and I, Ado a yana kindlin, Ado a yaba yaholne, hot out a yard. That Aggie bandit on the accord Ado the I kill now. And lay to the Hanishi every quarter. Nagi or Basha Netley or just they quite Ani go. Aslanna or the Gibini Nasto at Atona Neta. I call notes the Nigi Ani Esa Bentan Dend. I call the she a yama the kid Bentan is big she the way Audin Adajo. It's not the old day Gibini Nado, the Hosha Beta Hos and the store that when the sheet on a Bentan take order. A sheet Anisha, nothing but she a yard. Nagnation for these little that so out of a nature. The way how she Sanani enjoyed at open not at a nije honanal neta ko eda nije honada lia da shin job in na bil ko sana itli to ko ya da tiban na dit ida li no shi to nije hodil ni la shi to ko di I don't know host ha hot so de era ta di nat anish china da huis so de bebe gadit aidan lenigi jo to ashto da hota han za nahal jo shin to aljen da huil ne to alade da huil ne ta di da hagi be has ani be in da has tigi ben kada has ti to leshigi to bijan ta holonigi hait ale hajo da leshigi jo خدای هتا یابی بنچه وانا دیت اونا هول جشتولی آنی ینانتا آگه هست دانشی جدی declination گیدات اهیدشن گید بین دینی کی ده خد آشین شهادو که ده هتون تا آنیو آبا هادی تستو دابا ساهانی بلوند هت این دان لحظه خد آشین یا دو دات هجو Ajahn has anigidin the U.S. Attorney's Office, the DA's Office. Ajahn to Hashit au yad. Hajo kin data that velto jo Japan yen da idil kito jo ebikin na da idil kin det aho. Hot on it has aho. Here I didn't identity.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Henderson. Not on Kitchenancy, Ado, Begishi, Shanant Ashatat, and not Kito, either at the Behananazi.
Pro Tem Brown, this is Delegate Crowdy.
Yes, go ahead, Madam Chair Crowdy. The floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, committee members and Director Henderson. I appreciate the insight and all of the recommendations. I think what we can do in preparation for our next meeting and knowing that this is important to leadership and the advocates and, of course, the survivors, if we could follow up, Pro Tem, we could do like a leadership call, or we can have a follow-up meeting to go over some of the data and the recommendations. We're asking for ARPA funding, and in looking at the guidelines, it's available for public safety, especially in response to COVID. And so we want to move forward and support those initiatives. If I could get guidance, Pro Tem, what is the wish of the committee? We can come together as a committee and discuss that, or we can request the law and order oversight to provide that guidance, or bring it back up to Nabakia Camp. But I know we're going to be having our ARPA leadership meeting soon, and I'd like to make sure that these issues are addressed and we could identify funding to alleviate some of the suffering of our people. Thank you, Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would say if we can schedule a leadership meeting and invite SAP/LOC and all the delegates, I think this is a great time since the momentum is there on our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, as well as, nationally. And so that would be my recommendation. And also, I think we can really have a full, wholesome discussion with Navajo Nation Police, with CI, the victim services. If we can have a different meeting, and then we can plan on how we can tap into some of the funding. So, because a lot of this, again, is COVID related as well. And I think we can invite the controller's office, and then we can also ask these same questions with Budget Committee, being that myself, Delegate Crotty, and myself are, and see how we can. So by the time we can apply for these 8 funds and FR funds. We can, I'm sure, working with the department, Mr. Henderson and others, we can make this happen. So that would be my recommendation. Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee members, how does that sound to you? I would like to hear from the other SAP members. Yeah. Okay. I don't hear anyone. I'm not sure if you're on mute, but I know
Vice
that
Chair.
there's a lot going on. Oh, I think that is Delegate Stewart. Go ahead.
Vice Chair. The recommendation, Madam Chair, presented for leadership meeting, I would agree with that, as well as yourself, which you have presented and recommended as well. The leadership meeting between the Navigate committee, since it's an invitation to all 24 delegates, for the leadership meeting to take place regarding these funds and what we can seek through the ARPA. So ARPA funding COVID because of what the quarantine status and stay-at-home policies that were enacted and whatnot. Sure, these numbers that we're talking about have increased as well during that time, but were not probably reported until just recently, or they're probably coming out now. So my recommendation is to, in agreement with both of you, to have the leadership meeting with the prosecutor's office and also the public safety.
Okay, Sinanta, duly noted. So it sounds like we will be planning the leadership meeting. Sinanta, any other delegates at this time? We welcome any and all recommendations, but I think at this time that would be really good. And again, time is of the essence. I know that we are planning another leadership meeting with President Nez, Vice President Lizer, as well as 24th Navajo Nation Council, and we will definitely have all of the division directors. And then with this specific conversation, it would be, Chief of Police, Prosecutor's Office, Criminal Investigation, and others. And I would like to invite all the victim services that are not just on Navajo, but services that are given to our Navajo people, shelters, SANE nurses. And again, I think, this council, we want to continue to look at Title 17 of the Navajo Nation Code, the criminal codes, and we want to add teeth to them to make sure that in order to protect our people, and then ultimately it's justice for our relatives that out there who need these. So it looks like if there's no other comments on this for a leadership meeting, Ms. Spencer, if you can help us and securing a date. And I think it would be a good a few hours, like a half a day, that we can schedule a meeting so we can have a full discussion. And then we can then send out the information to CI, Navajo Nation Police, Prosecutor's Office on what we need, and then the same for the victim services, how we can work, how we can best work together. And I know by this time you have all discovered the best practices and working with outside organizations as well. And for myself, any best practices that you can share with me, I welcome that. So at this time, I know that it is 4:09 right now, and there's other meetings going on. So staff, if you can help me again, Ms. Spencer, if you can help me with a date on a leadership meeting with the recommendations that were just made. And the Quaggy staff, if you can help me with a roll call vote on this presentation. Yeah.
This is Delegate James.
Okay, Delegate James, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. My request would be to, as us as subcommittee, meet with the individuals or the department first to see, unless they want to forward their notes and what the outcome, what the plan was from the last meeting, to justify and identify what our agenda is going to look like. But if we don't have a topic and we're just general and open without giving that direction, it's going to be hard to try and create a goal. If there was a goal that was in place, that was set. So for me, it's just me, but for me, I want to know what was the plan from the last meeting when everybody got together. What were the things that were outlined, and were they accomplished? And do we still have to look at that area again? Do we still have to identify those areas, and then from there and identify the leadership meeting? But if we're just going to go in there and say we want to invite everybody, I understand we want to invite everybody, but what is it that we're going to meet on? It's what I'm trying to listen out for. And my point of view is, what were the goals that were set in place? What were identified? What needed to happen? And maybe some have happened, some have not happened. So quite something yes, I think although if we can ask the department if they have any notes, if they can forward those to us. We probably need to be amendments done to the law or the process. So quite iki so into the this kid, they're asking us, you guys are the lawmakers. You guys can make changes to the law, adopt and make changes. You hit that no obey jihad. This is hard to But I speak of this. I'm outvoted and you guys just want to meet the social dog so I need to have all just stop. Yeah, or by starting slate or asking like asking or this or this. But she what I speak of this is
Excellent. Yes, I Craigie began Kigi Ani Ado Craigie Bansis Keso Dida and Nankanan Shadegi staff members. I think for myself, and then also being in a meeting earlier today and then following Law and Order Committee, listening to Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, I think we have, for myself at least, we have a really good idea on what our ask is, and really we've been listening to like the CI, the prosecutor, and their needs, and that was some of the reasons why the vote or the amendments that were being proposed during the budget session. And I know with victim services, and I think because of the time, and we're really looking at the next meeting before the ARPA leadership meeting with President, we wanted to make sure that we're prepared. And I think also, just like today, we're really busy as council delegates with multiple meetings, really important meetings. And I think setting time aside for staff, we don't get quorum right away, or else we lose quorum. And I think with that in mind, I think I think a leadership meeting would be and for myself, and I know that Ms. Spencer and also have been working on this, and I can certainly share. And Delegate Crotty, please. I know the work and of I think with the work and then with the MMIWR, the work that was going on this morning. I think we have a really good idea on what we want from each of the departments as far as CI, Navajo Nation Police, Prosecutor's Office, and also from the victim services, the multiple victim services that are out there. And really the basic thing is, what is it that, and the big thing is, number one is Title 17, adding to Title 17, amending that and adding and giving it more teeth. The other thing would be to working in collaboration. I know that we need SANE nurses at all the Indian Health Services on the Navajo Nation. I know in Western Agency, Kayenta, we don't have a SANE nurse. I think it's only Fort Defiance that I'm really aware of. So that's really needed. And the other thing is the communication with Navajo Nation Police, with these victim services, is what we need. And I think before this next meeting, we can do a call out, an email chain, a listserv to all the individuals, and then we can compile a letter on what we want what we want them to report on, and how we as SAC members and Navajo Nation Council can support them. What laws do we need change? And ultimately, it will boil down to the dollar amount. And I think at that time, we will not be confused at any time when we're voting on the budget and moving forward. So, you do bring up a really good point, and again, it's at the will of the committee. And I think, and the main thing is, another really important point is the amount of time that we have as council delegates and how we're so stretched on time. And I know that we try to make all these meetings, all these important meetings. However, it's simply impossible also. So again, as vice chair, I'm here and open to ideas. And again, it's to expedite these process so we can help our people who are traumatized and who are trying to seek help, and then have them moving to the healing part in their life. I'm open again to questions. I know I did hear you, Delegate James. And Delegate Crotty, Madam Chair, if you have anything to add to this conversation, let me see. Keep getting kicked out on my computer here. Let me see. Madam Chair Crotty, are you still on the line with us? Akoho, I think she's immersed in the conversation with the Navajo Nation veterans organizations that are there as well. It sounds like they have some really heavy topics again. So Shananta, again, let me go back to the committee members that are online with us. What is the will of this committee for this next meeting, and really preparation so we can have a proposed idea on what we need, and then it would be specifically to the ARPA funding that's coming, and to present it at the leadership money on ARPA with President. Yeah.
Delegate James, I'm okay with it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Shananta. So with that, staff, Ms. Spencer, if you can help me, and then we'll coordinate with all the SAP members to have a leadership meeting, and sometimes I'm not sure about next week or the next 2 weeks, so we can work on those dates. And right now, staff, if you can help me with the roll call vote. Yeah.
Okay, Honorable Amber Canespa Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Vice Chair, I don't think you have a motion in the second on this.
Oh, committee members, if I can get a motion on this report, item B.
Motion, Stewart.
Delegate James.
Okay, we do have a motion.
Delegate Paul Begay.
Okay, we do have a motion by Delegate Stewart, a second by Delegate Paul Begay. With that, staff, please help me with the roll call vote. Kat.
Oh, okay, Honorable Amber Canespa Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Amber Canespa Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Vice Chair, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting. Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you. 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting. So we do have letter C, which is a report on victim services from FBI victim advocates and support for families. Do we have anyone for this report? Letter number C. I understand it would be the FBI victim advocates. Ms. Spencer, who would be the contact person for this report?
Mr. Vice Chair, we called the FBI office in Gallup and they are not available. So maybe until later on, maybe next month, they'll be available. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will move them to our next meeting agenda. In the meantime, we will keep in contact with them. We're on to number 6, old business, none. Item number 7, old business is none. Item 7, new business is none. Item number 8, close the meeting, announcements and adjournment. Do anyone have any announcement at this time? Or is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that, Delegate Crotty.
Okay, we do have a motion to adjourn by Delegate Stewart, second by Delegate Crotty. Staff, if you can help me with the roll call vote, please. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canespa Crotty, how do you vote?
Shadeja, Delegate Amber Canespa Crotty, and I vote green. Thank you very much, committee members.
Honorable Amber Canespa Crotty votes green. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown not voting. Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Staff members, Thank you, staff. Thank you, Hehe and Tago. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. Be safe out there. Gone.
Go on it.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Madam Chair. Have a good weekend, everybody.